Hi, I was editing this video and realized that my pronunciation of the villain character for the horror book all over the board. I honestly mispronounced the double L. I misread the name multiple times. I'll be the first to admit that when it comes to Spanish, my pronunciation, not my strong suit. Hey y'all, my name is Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today, and for this video, we're going to be doing a ARC reading vlog. So before you get into anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments, are you excited for these books? Are you wanting to read them? Are they now on your TBR? Let's talk about it. Alright, so as per usual, thank you so much to Netgalley and the publishers as well as authors for review copies of these books. I am very excited to get into both of them. Ironically, actually won one of them in a Goodreads giveaway as well. I have a physical and a digital version. That one is Yours Truly by 𝗖cie Jimenez. This is the next book set in the same universe as her prior romance, Part of Your World. That's what it was. In this one, we are following Bree, who is a doctor, and I believe she's kind of going through some shit. I think she's currently in the middle of a divorce. She ends up sparking some sort of a relationship with the new doctor that just started, who unfortunately has been nicknamed Dr. Death due to his first day on the job, where multiple patients died in his care. I believe this also has some sort of a alternative communication style going on. It looks like they send each other letters, at least like with this, and like she's writing and he's writing. That's kind of similar to like Twice Shy by Sarah Hogel's cover, and that's how I got there with that one. One way or another, I'm excited to get into this one. Part of Your World was my first 𝗖cie Jimenez book, and I really enjoyed it. I am very excited for this one as well, so much so that I picked it for my book club book this month, seeing as how it comes out here shortly, and I'm buddy reading it with Michelle at Michelle's Library. On a very different note, I am also going to be reviewing The Haunting of Alejandra by Castro in this video. This story is following our main character, who believes she is being haunted by 𝗖cie. That's all I really know going into this, and that's all I want to know. This cover was absolutely stunning and really the reason I requested it. However, when I heard that it has some tie-ins to the 𝗖cie story, I'm very intrigued to learn more. I think I probably heard that story for the first time in 7th, 8th grade, maybe in high school, and I do remember becoming a little obsessed with it and diving down the Wikipedia rabbit hole. So I am intrigued to learn more about that folktale in this book. Alright, so I will talk to you guys again whenever I have started into one of these books. Hey guys, so I've hit the 30% mark into The Haunting of Alejandra, and wow, Castro really came out swinging with that depressing tone that's just gonna punch you in the face right out of the get-go. There's just this heavy feeling that covers the entire story and really has overtaken Alejandra's life. Her depression has become so debilitating that she's really having a hard time to take care of herself, let alone caring for her 3 children who she is supposed to be in charge of every day. And her shitty husband, who is guilt-tripping her for feeling this way, doesn't help matters. He is the absolute worst. I am rooting for her to leave him, just like I was with Patricia in Southern Book Club's guide. We love when the real horror story is the terrible husband. However, Alejandra has started to actually resent him a little bit and their entire relationship, but also she is starting to visualize this woman in white. Very unsettling, I will say that. I deeply want to give this woman a hug already. I already feel like I'm very connected with her, and thank God we actually do see her getting some help. When she searches out a therapist, she finds another woman who is also a Mexican American so that they can connect over their culture, and the author did a clever thing with that in utilizing that connection to explain some of the pieces of folklore that are going to be tied into this story, namely 𝗖cie. I really liked this one quote from the therapist when talking about 𝗖cie. Stories always begin somewhere, even those ideas in the imagination come from somewhere. That came up when Alejandra comments that she doesn't think 𝗖cie was real, and the therapist posits story had to come from something. I really enjoy that sort of a perspective when it comes to mythology and folklore stories. Alejandra is very isolated from other adults in her everyday life because she and her husband just recently moved to this town, so she doesn't have any friends yet. And it's worsened by the fact that shortly before moving here, she was starting to connect with her birth mother and starting to learn about her heritage and the background of her family. Things about herself that she obviously wasn't able to learn when she was in the foster care system. I did really love the little bit we see between Alejandra and her oldest daughter Katrina, where she is trying to share what she's learned about her culture with Katrina and the way it connects the both of them. I want to see more of that. I did not realize going into this that there were going to be alternating perspectives, but we see one chapter from Alejandra's perspective before shifting back to 1522 Mexico and seeing from the perspective of 𝗖cie. I believe that's how it's pronounced. She was a native woman who was actually claimed as a prize by a conquistador in order to distract him so her family could get away. The connection there is 𝗖cie also sees this woman in white, and every time we see her, it is just so eerie and unsettling. Her voice is just as somber and bitter as Alejandra's, but I still think they do stand apart from each other rather well. And I'm hopeful that's going to continue because I did see that we're going to have a few different perspectives as the book progresses forward from other women. For the most part so far, this book seems more character focused. It comes across a little bit more literary, but it does have some horrific descriptions. And I think that's really where it's earning that genre label so far. Really, the only negative I can think of is that dialogue does seem a little awkward. It doesn't really flow authentically. It doesn't seem like something a person would say. Anytime a conversation is taking place, it also feels just really long-winded because of that. The writing and every other aspect I am really enjoying. Hey y'all, so I have officially finished out The Haunting of Alejandra. Apologies, I meant to do another update, but I read the last 100 pages of this book while on a road trip down to Austin, so couldn't really film. And given this book was fairly short, I honestly didn't really have too many things to say before I actually finished the book. Overall, I do think I really enjoyed this. I really liked the discussions that were brought up, particularly in regards to motherhood and the effect that being a mother has on one's identity. I really liked Alejandra, our main character. I cared for her a great deal. I was really rooting for her to find out about her past, find out about her family, and find out about all of the trauma they have experienced throughout their lives and through their family members that then has impacted her own life as well. I loved watching her slowly return to being the strong woman she describes herself as prior to being a mother, but I also greatly appreciated the way her doing this improved her relationship with her children. I thought it was really interesting how 𝗖cie Castro handled the discussion around the generational trauma, because I realized those alternate perspectives we had from other people in the past were different people from the same family line, which was very clever on Castro's part. I think what was particularly impressive was the writing style for each of these women. Their voices sounded similar enough that I believed these people were all from the same family, but at the same time were distinctive enough that I never got confused. The author also slid in some interesting bits about Mexican history between the perspective of one of the women who was there during the age of the conquistadors to a woman who was a part of the Mexican Revolution in 1910. Like I said previously, I really loved the discussion around motherhood and identity that we saw throughout all of these different perspectives and how each of these women handled that struggle differently, how they really took hold of their own fate and made it into what they wanted it to be. I felt so empowered reading this book right alongside Alejandra. As I mentioned in my previous update, the horror itself that we see is mostly in regards to 𝗖cie. Anytime we see a little bit of her, it's definitely eerie, unsettling. The descriptions themselves are what's really visceral and gory. Apart from that, all in all, this isn't too strong of a horror book. Even those gory and gross descriptions, there's like maybe one that I could see sticking with me. Across the board, nothing was truly memorable in that regard. I'm tempted to categorize this book as less of a horror story and more of like a literary horror, but as the book continued, we did start to see a little bit more of those horrific aspects, particularly anytime the 𝗖cie character was present. And with that, I really loved the final chapter we have. We actually see through the eyes of 𝗖cie, and this was just such a clever way to turn it on its head and make you revamp your thought process of that story. I appreciate Castro so much for doing that. I still maintain, apart from the issue of wanting more horror, my other big critique of this book is dialogue just feels really clunky. It does not flow. It doesn't feel authentic. It's really long-winded. I also would have liked more from the big bad in the end. I'm trying not to be spoilery, but I wanted more explanation there. It wasn't explored enough for my taste. In the end, my Cawpile breakdown came out to 4 stars. This was a pretty quick read. I really liked the discussions around this. I definitely think if you'd enjoyed Push or just like Mother, you might like this book because it does feel like it hits on some similar themes, horror and motherhood, but also I love the folklore element of it. I appreciate the tie-ins to Mexican culture, and all in all, I'm definitely intrigued to check out more of 𝗖cie Castro's work. Hey guys, so I've hit roughly around the 25% mark in yours truly. Right out of the get-go, I wasn't the biggest fan of how things started because I really enjoyed Bree, our female main character in the first book. I thought she was hilarious. I really liked her personality. But at the start of this one, she's just very angry and bitter at the world. And I totally understand why, like, we get background of the things going on in her life that are causing her to feel this way. It just felt like such a jarring change from the character we knew in the first book. I just didn't feel the most positive about her at the beginning, and then it was only worsened by the fact that she was so mean to the love interest Jacob, when really a lot of the stuff she was mean to him for wasn't anything he really did. So I then was definitely really engaged anytime we were in Jacob's perspective. He is a anxious little being who is just trying to make the most out of his new job in this new hospital, but he doesn't get off on a great start. His anxiety makes it so that he puts his foot in his mouth, he becomes more introverted, then has a hard time talking to people, which is all worsened whenever, obviously, he makes a poor impression and doesn't know how to come back from it. Things are even worse than that when we find out that apparently his ex-girlfriend is marrying his little brother. That was a thing to read. However, Jacob ends up writing a letter to Brianna to apologize for getting off on the wrong foot, and as soon as the letter started up, I was completely hooked. I loved it. I felt like, particularly in the letters, we were seeing the Brianna that I had really enjoyed in the first book again, and I love that because we're seeing that character in the letters that she is only giving to Jacob. Like, so she really is only conveying her true self to him right now. I don't know why, but I just love that so much, and I think it already has me really invested in their friendship. Both of them are definitely in weird places where they aren't really looking for a relationship, but it's also obvious, so like, come on. Come on, guys, y'all are flirting. Brianna is trying to get over her ex. I think her official divorce goes through in about 2 weeks is what she's saying. And then her younger brother is currently dealing with renal failure. So definitely some heavy things going on in this one, but to be fair, the first book also had some heavier side topics. Honestly, I'm very impressed with it. I really like that 𝗖cie Jimenez is managing to balance the happiness of a rom-com with some more serious elements, and it just makes the rest of the story feel a lot more grounded and realistic. Also realized that 𝗖cie Jimenez kind of did something funny where she mentions her own cupcake shop. I appreciate that. I find it very hilarious. Also, my other absolute favorite thing is that Jacob has a pet dog who only has 3 legs, and his name is Lieutenant Dan. That is so cute. It's so funny. It's glorious. Glorious. We got a little bit of his family as well, and they all seem interesting. Many of them appear to be quite outgoing and extroverted, which is in contrast to what Jacob is, and I really like seeing that. What can I say? I love a good opposites attract relationship, whether it's romantic or platonic. I am also trying to tab this, but I don't have too much going on. There are funny things, there are cute things that happen, but they don't feel like there's something that stands out enough that warrants a tab just yet. But I'm only 25% in, so perhaps that may change in the rest of this book. I don't remember if I mentioned this previously, but I'm buddy reading this with Michelle at Michelle's Library, and it was kind of funny. We were both talking about how we really like the friendship forming between these two, even though neither of us are friends to lovers fans. So I think that's impressive that 𝗖cie Jimenez has made both of us invested in that sort of a trope when it's not really a trope either of us really enjoys. Hey guys, so I've hit the 75% mark in yours truly, and I really had to make myself stop at that that point because I am very sucked into this. I honestly just want to keep reading. This morning I was completely enthralled. It really took a lot of effort to like make myself stop and actually get up and start getting ready for work because I just wanted to keep going. But I wanted to actually have another update before I completely finish this book out. So I don't remember what my summary or what my last update really covered, if I'm being completely honest here. So I did not realize that this had a fake dating trope. Our male main character, Jacob, ends up telling his parents that, hey, he's dating somebody new. You don't have to worry about the fact that his little brother is marrying his ex-girlfriend, which is a whole thing that I still cannot get over. So he lies to his family and says that he's moving on. He is dating somebody new. Whilst his and Brianna's relationship is slowly improving, his sister comes to visit him at work and sees the two of them eating lunch together and assumes that this is his new girlfriend. So Jacob ends up asking Brianna to be his fake girlfriend to showcase to his family that he is fine, he has moved on, to also showcase this to his little brother and his ex-girlfriend. Brianna agrees, and part of that is because she finds out that Jacob is actually donating a kidney to her little brother who is in renal failure. Now, that sort of a setup obviously leads to some issues. From the very beginning, Jacob is concerned on whether or not Brianna is doing this because she actually is friends with him or because she feels she has to since he is giving her little brother a kidney. Not to mention, seeing as how Brianna has just recently gone through a divorce, she is dealing with some trust issues, some abandonment issues, and that's all working against her ever trying to find happiness in a relationship again. That's the basis we have to go into this fake dating relationship. And I already don't like fake dating, so when there are fairly valid excuses involved in why this fake dating relationship isn't ever going to become something real, and then the characters continuously keep falling back on those excuses, even when it's incredibly obvious that the other person has feelings for them, I get so tired of it. I'm really enjoying this book actually, but I hate the fake dating element. I hate it so much. I'm exhausted from watching them go back and forth between like, oh, I really like this person. Oh, I think I love this person. To then remember, oh, here's list X, Y, and Z of why this is never gonna happen. This isn't real. Like, they have this thing going on. This is because of this. I'm so exhausted by the excuses. I do appreciate the fact that the fake dating element forces these two to spend more time together. It forces them to get to know one another. And I just like seeing them in those moments when they're just hanging out. They're just talking about nothing in particular. Brianna has all these really weird get to know you questions that she keeps asking. I am very invested in the development of their relationship from kind of workplace rivals to friends, and now at this point they definitely have feelings for each other. I'm 75% in and they still haven't even kissed, so this is very slow burn. When they are acting like a couple in, you know, these situations where they have to fake date, I do really like seeing them as a couple. They've each admitted to themselves that they have feelings for the other person. What makes it doubly frustrating is there was an attempt on both sides to try and talk things out, to try and understand the other person's feelings, but both of them just end up jumping to conclusions and just like, it's driving me insane. This is why I don't like fake dating. I mean, I do appreciate the amount of sexual tension that has amped up because of the fake dating element. And then there are obviously a few other situations that happen that are just required in romance books. We have a only one bed trope. That situation was fantastic. The author was very self-aware when writing it, and it just made it all the more entertaining. But at the same time, I'm just like, can you two just kiss already? Yeah, I like slow burn, but only to a point. There's a reason I have not picked up a Mariana Zapata book, because I don't think I can put up with 500 pages of slow burn. I am really impressed with Abby Jimenez's writing in the fact that she can balance such serious topics that are being brought up with a good amount of humor. Like, this book is very funny. I have many yellow tabs where I've just been actively cracking up. Though I do think that it seems like some of the serious topics that were being brought up have kind of taken a back seat for at least like the last 150 pages. We've mostly just been focusing on the fake dating elements for quite a while now. I guess you could say some of Brianna's situation with her ex is obviously coming up in her trust and abandonment issues, but I'm exhausted of seeing those. I'm really liking this, but it feels like in regards to like balancing all those plot areas, this hasn't been as great in comparison to the first book. And then again, there's a reason I don't like fake dating. And like, this is a perfect example of it. It's just not the trope for me, man. However, I am so invested in this story that I am hopeful by the end of the book. I'm just gonna absolutely love it. And maybe I'll forget all of this frustration I have had at the book, but we'll see.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Hey guys, so I've officially finished out yours truly. The last 30% of this book was an experience. I really considered throwing my phone across the room last night when I was reading this digitally. Not only were we having to deal with fake dating, which is one of my least favorite tropes, but another of my least favorite tropes made an appearance as well. It was utilized as like a jumping off point for some more deep and darker discussions, which I appreciate. I understood what the author was doing there. I still don't like how it was brought up. I don't like the turn this took. I don't like that trope was then utilized to further keep these two apart when literally they don't even kiss until maybe 75% into this book. Like, I have gone through enough. I just want to see them happy together. I really thought, given how long it took for these two to become an official couple, we weren't really gonna have a traditional third act conflict. I was not that lucky. No, that's what my other least favorite trope was, and it just made me all the more annoyed. It really soured the entire ending of this book for me, honestly, and I know I'm not alone. Michelle actually DNF'd it once she saw that trope. These two don't even kiss until like 75% into the book, and even once that finally happens, it wasn't satisfying because immediately after they revert back to not communicating. It was so repetitive in regard to each of them relying on these excuses for why the other person couldn't have feelings for them, and I was just so done with it by that point. I was so done with it. Thank God that didn't last too long. They finally talked things out and got together, but again, that was short-lived because then there was the third act conflict. And even though the final reconciliation between these two was very adorable, like the way Jacob kind of did it's sort of a grand gesture, but it's not. That was so sweet, so adorable, tied back into the letter writing from the beginning. I really enjoyed it, but I really couldn't enjoy it either because I was so annoyed with everything else happening in the book. And like, the epilogue, while cute, I just was so annoyed by that point that I couldn't really enjoy it. So I had a weird experience with this book. Them as a couple, really was sold on it. Jacob was a fantastic hero, but because of how much I disliked the ending, my Cawpile ratings are all over the place. So this came down to a very low 3 stars. I think my Cawpile rating itself actually came out to exactly a perfect 3. And I'm really bitter about it because I went into this with mid expectations. I was really enjoying it. I thought this was gonna be a high number of stars, and then the ending just completely ruined it. I've already found somebody to give this away to. I'm really bummed. On that note, thank you so much for coming to my channel today, guys. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. I have all my socials as well as a few ways you can support me linked in the description. I come out videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!